Welcome to Tone Deaf, a theater nerd's guide for their musically challenged spouse. I'm Kay, a musical theater nerd.
And I'm Warren. I'm musically challenged.
So today, we're going to be going back across to America after spending some time with Ira Aldridge, and we're going to be highlighting a play that was written by a black abolitionist and former slave named William Wells Brown.
Quick question.
Yes.
Is it really necessary to call a black person an abolitionist? Because I get the feeling that they're all in favor of not being slaves.
An abolitionist would be the people that are actively,
actively protesting.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
protesting, going on the lecture tours, which we'll talk about with him a little bit. So, I wanted to do a longer thing on him, but I feel like William Wells Brown, like a full, detailed biography on him, would be better suited to a show like Black History Buff than our show, just because his connection to theater is kind of a blip. It's an important blip, but it's still just a small part out of the vast, amazing life of William Wells Brown.
Gotcha.
Well, amazing might not be the right word, because it was a pretty bad start. So he was born into slavery in 1814. He was the son of a black slave, Elizabeth, and a relative of their master, Dr. John Young, who was named George Higgins.
Higgins.
Oh, gosh. Allegedly, though, his father actually did claim him and told Young never to sell him or his mother. And Young was like, oh, yeah, sure. Psych! And by the time that he was 20, William Wells Brown and his mother had been sold several times. Neat. So, from his own autobiography, which is called Narrative of William Wells Brown, a Fugitive Slave, Wells talked about the indignities of slavery, including the fact that when his master had had a nephew brought to him, who was also named William, his mother was told to change her son's name, and disobedience was harshly punished, and he says, "This at the time I thought to be one of the most cruel acts that could be committed upon my rights, and I received several very severe whippings for telling people that my name was William."
Oh.
This is a kid. Yeah.
Could you imagine if you were allowed to whip every other woman named Carl?
You mean Kay? But also, I've thought about whipping people with the same name.
We're gonna edit that part out.
Or I'm just gonna bleep my name out and people can go, what is the name? What is the name that Kay has?
It's Kay.
It's Kay. That is my name. So, you're gonna want your biting stick.
I forgot it.
Here's a pillow. You can scream into this pillow, dear.
I probably will. Hit me with it.
Okay, so William and his mother had an unsuccessful escape attempt in 1833, and I believe that this is the escape attempt that led him to being punished by Virginia Play. Virginia Play is when they would tie up the slave in the smokehouse, flog them, and then leave them in there while smoking them, by lighting piles of tobacco stems until the slave nearly choked to death, and then they'd just send them back out to work again. Let it all out, babe.
I'm sure there will be more later.
Okay. Well, it gets better once he gets to freedom.
Okay, well, yeah, I would hope so.
Yeah, so...
I would hope that freedom would be better than slavery.
Yeah. So, throughout his time as a slave, he had been in many positions, from house servant to field hand to assisting a slave trader, which was a thing that had to be done with these... Gosh, This is so hard to do without swearing.
Yes, it is, Kay.
This is so hard to do without swearing. But he had these positions that, like, you would have slaves that would be forced to whip other slaves and things like that. So this was a cruel cruel period of history, and it's why I get really angry at people who either say it wasn't so bad or...
Yep.
I get really angry about that. And then it's like, and that's not where the indignities stop. It doesn't stop with the Emancipation Proclamation. It doesn't stop with the end of the Civil War. It doesn't stop with Martin Luther King. It keeps happening.
Slow march towards progress.
Very slow, it seems. So, his last job as a slave was working on a steamboat. And this was how he would make his successful escape to freedom.
Sweet.
As the ship docked in Ohio, which was a free state.
Ha! Ha ha ha! Did he just get off the boat and walk away?
Yes, he just got off the boat.
Yes!
So he escaped in 1834, and he was befriended by a Quaker named Wells Brown, which is who William took the last name of while reclaiming his first name of William. And he was taught to read and write and was given, like, clothes and money and food and everything he needed to start out a new life.
Go Quakers.
Yeah, the Quakers were great. They were very abolitionist, and they were, whenever you hear about white people in the North saving slaves, it's usually Quakers.
Weren't they also notoriously nonviolent? Like,
yes.
They didn't use guns and stuff like that?
Yeah. I keep wondering if not the Warren that led to you having the curse, but the one that my mom found... Well, it wasn't a Warren, but he was one of your relatives who was a abolitionist that was freeing slaves.
Yeah, I knew that
was
I had
getting in trouble for it.
And that's true as an abolitionist. I don't know if they were a Quaker, but...
Wouldn't surprise me.
Then, then again, me with a gun trying to help free black people would result in a lot of dead other people. Probably.
Yeah. You would be pretty... violently freeing people.
It would have been me. It would. The superhero fantasy in my brain is basically that German guy in Django Unchained.
Yeah. So, kids, don't watch Django Unchained until you're over 18. And even at that age, I would...
Slavery's bad. Free slaves at any cost.
Yep. So, William became hungry for knowledge, and he was, like, basically making up for lost time with his reading and writing. And by the time that he got really famous, he was one of the most prolific black authors of the era.
Oh, wow.
From 1836 to 1845, he worked on a steamboat in New York, and he was using that to shuttle slaves to Canada.
Nice.
To free them, because Canada was absolutely free. Like, there was no way that they would get sold back into slavery if they were in Canada. And in fact, in 1842, he safely took 69 slaves to freedom in Canada by that steamboat.
Nice. Double nice.
And I want to say it was like 30,000 slaves had been freed by being sent up to Canada. So... by 1849, he was a lecturer in abolitionist circles in America, and then he traveled to Europe and began lecturing in France and England for 5 years. During this time, he wrote his autobiography, as well as the novel about Sally Hemings called Clotel, or The President's Daughter. The reason why he was in the UK at this time is because of the Fugitive Slave Law in 1850.
Okay, was that the one that if a slave escapes, you're allowed to go across state lines to get them and bring them back?
Yep.
I have words. I have words for that, which I'm not going to say. Use your imagination.
Yes. So, he basically is a case of if he returned, he could just be recaptured even if he was in New York or in Ohio. Or...
Do you know the specifics of that? Did it have to be, like... would the authorities in New York be required to hand him over, or would it be someone from... I
believe so.
Because that's garbage.
Yeah, I believe it was, because, again, we're not people at this point to a lot of white people. We are animals. We are property. We are chattel.
It's the inherent white supremacy that was
Yeah.
in the seeds of the founding of the country
Yes.
and carried over for generations and generations.
Yes, and still is lying underneath. So, yeah, when people say racism isn't around anymore,
So,
it is.
a side vent tangent, just
Yes.
because I need it.
Yes.
I get so incredibly frustrated and furious when people try to say that white supremacy is justified, that white people are superior just inherently, because you have this man who was never educated, ever reached adulthood. He was crafty enough to escape on his own, and then he proceeded to learn everything he could and became a writer and a lecturer, and he did that later in life, because
Yeah.
studies have shown that it's easier to learn when you're younger. It's
Yeah.
harder to learn when you're older, and he did all of this when he was older. And he's not an isolated incident. That happened
No.
all the time. So you can't tell me that one group of people is superior innately.
Yeah.
When people are given equal opportunities, they shine. And I think that a lot of that bogus white supremacy just comes from a deep-seated feeling of inadequacy, and to make yourself feel better, you have to crap on everyone else.
Yep.
And prevent them from doing anything other than what you want them to do, because if they do well at something that's better than what a white person can do, then it throws their whole perspective of reality into question.
Yep.
How can this black person read better than this white person?
See Hitler with Jesse Owens.
It's just, I get...
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, you're fine.
My
You're fine.
my therapy rant is over.
You're fine. So, his freedom was purchased in 1854 by the British family, the Richardsons, who also purchased Frederick Douglass's freedom, so that they could both go back over to the U.S.
So, but does that mean that they, quote
They
unquote,
are free.
does that mean they send a check to their original master saying, "Hey,
Basically.
we bought this slave"?
I believe so, something like that. But
Okay.
basically, it was something to say, here's the papers, he's free.
I'm
is
surprised.
not-
I'm surprised that America at the time even acknowledged that, because it was the UK.
They didn't always.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because I know that
And-
the practice of stealing free black men and putting them into
Yeah.
slavery was a thing.
Yeah, no, it didn't always work. But,
There was at least legal recourse
Yeah,
to be
there
like,
was-
you can't do this.
yeah, and there were people out there who cared. And there were people out there who went, this is wrong. Stop treating other human beings this way. You know, we're all people.
Yeah.
We are all humans. So, when he returned to the U.S., he started supporting black immigration to Haiti because Haiti had become an independent black republic in 1804.
Oh.
So, yeah, and that one, we'll talk more about that when we cover Once on This Island. Because Once on This Island is set in Haiti after, well, a while after that period of time, but they do talk about it a little bit in the play. So he continued to tour with his anti-slavery lectures, and during and after the Civil War, he continued to write. During the Civil War, he actually was helping recruit black soldiers for the Union.
Cool.
Then, after the war, he joined the temperance movement, and he opened a homeopathic medical practice in Boston.
Okay.
I mean, this is before medicine was a thing,
Oh,
so...
fair. That's fair. He's not trying to sell doTERRA to cure cancer.
No. I don't know if they even really knew what cancer was. Like, they had the term for it, but they didn't quite know the mechanics of it. It was like, you get these masses and then you die.
Yeah.
And we don't know why in between. So, before all of his later life stuff, he did get married. His first wife was in 1834, shortly after he escaped, and he had two daughters who survived to adulthood, Clarissa and Josephine. And Josephine actually became his biographer, and also was a lecturer and writer herself.
Nice.
And then she chronicled her father's life, and chronicled what slaves went through, stuff like that. And then Brown was... he was estranged from his wife in 1851, and she stayed in the U.S., and then later died, and so Wells married again in 1860. But then he died in his home in, was it Cambridge? Why didn't I write that down? Anyway, he died in 1884. And now, on to the 2 plays that he wrote in his lifetime, which is the whole reason why we get to cover him and say it's on topic for our show. So, he was technically the first published black playwright in America.
Oh, cool.
Even though William Henry Brown had written the drama of King Shot Away in 1823, Brown is the first playwright that's published. His first one was Experience, or How to Give a Northern Man a Backbone. It was a play about a white man who is mistakenly sold into slavery. It was written in 1856, never published, and is gone forever. But his second play, Escape or Leap for Freedom, was published in 1858, but it was never actually produced as a play until 1871.
So just right before he died, pretty much.
1971.
Oh,
I can read words. So 1971. So that's a pretty long gap, and we'll talk about why in a bit. Instead, though, William would read the plays to his audiences at his lectures. Escape is going to be a play in 5 acts, and at the time, reviews of the play that he read at his lectures were glowing. The Daily Advisor said, Mr. Brown's drama is, in itself, a masterly refutation of all apologies for slavery and abounds in wit, satire, philosophy, arguments, and facts, all ingeniously interwoven into one of the most interesting dramatic compositions of modern times. The Seneca Falls Courier said, Mr. Brown exhibits a dramatic talent possessed by few who have, under the best instructions, made themselves famous on stage. Pretty good reviews. Mm-hmm. Then post-Civil War happened and no one touched this play. And later reviews of people studying it kind of shed a little bit of a light onto it, as well as when we get into you actually hearing the play, you'll see kind of why. So James Weldon in Black Manhattan said of this, as well as Brown's career, it's in no degree a direct factor in the Negro's theatrical development. Little harsh.
Yeah.
Playwright Lofton Mitchell wrote in Black Drama that Brown's scenes, unfortunately, are close to blackface minstrelsy, much more than the author's personal slave experiences should have permitted.
So, I'm getting I'm a little confused. So, did he write it to be that way, or was it picked up later and changed to
So
be...
he wrote it to be that way, specifically one of the characters whose name is Cato. Cato is pretty much a minstrel show character, but Black Theater USA kind of argues that he was there to make the audience go, oh yeah, we're superior, look at this idiot, he's so dumb, and then he makes an escape for freedom that no white playwright would have ever done. And not just an escape, but a successful escape. No white playwright would have written that at that time, and so that would have just made everyone in the audience just go, that made me uncomfortable. You mean I'm not? I'm not as superior as I thought? Ah! So, that was sort of where it was like, oh, okay. It's still problematic, but for the time, it was major. And again, you've got to think about, this is why we covered minstrel shows. That was the accepted stuff of the time for all of the theater-going audiences.
I so hate the argument that was what was accepted, that was the times, that was standard.
Yeah.
Because it's like, it's just a polite way of saying that it was terrible.
Yes. Because it wasn't good, but that was what audiences would be more willing to see. I mean, it's the same thing that happened with Uncle Tom's Cabin, where the book and the 6-act play were more sympathetic to Tom and more like, oh, he's standing up. Like, it's one of those books that when you read it and you're going, oh, well, he actually is standing up to his masters and he is helping people escape. Why is that the name? And then you find out about the minstrel shows. It's like, oh, that's why. Screw you, racists.
Yeah.
I think you can say screw you in a kid's podcast. Well, not kids.
Young adults.
Young adults podcast. I think you can say screw you.
Well, you said it twice, so
yeah.
You're doubling down.
I'm doubling down. Screw you is appropriate.
when dealing with terms of racism and slavery.
It is appropriate. All right, so do you have any questions before I take a big drink of water and try to read this whole play?
No. I am, I guess, prepared.
You are prepared. Yeah, it's not going to be as difficult as the other days.
Because it won't be French.
It won't be French, and, I mean, it'll hurt, but it won't hurt as much. It's got a happier ending. None of the dying in your loved one's arms garbage.
That's good.
Mm-hmm. All right, so shall we?
Yep.
Let's go. Hey, Warren.
Hey, Kay.
Do you know what time it is?
Is it time to thank our favorite people in the whole world?
Heck yeah! Today, we would like to thank our stage crew sponsor, Jasmine Wu.
And our producer circle sponsors, Bianucci, Reagan, and Taylor Brandt.
Thank you all so much for your support of our show.
We truly appreciate it.
Today, I want to promote an audio drama by an amazing black podcaster, David S. Deere. His show, A Ninth World Journal, holds a special place in our hearts. Well, let's just have him tell you about it himself.
This is A Ninth World Journal. A careless experiment with a teleportation device has left me stranded in random places throughout the Ninth World. While trying to survive in these strange lands, I must find a way to reverse my condition.
A Ninth World Journal is a science fantasy audio drama podcast. Subscribe to listen or visit ninthworldjournal.com.
And now, the lights are going down and the music's starting back up, so let's head back to the second act of our show. All right, Warren, so what'd you think?
I actually liked it, quite a bit, for weird reasons, I guess. I don't know, it was really well written, really well done, and I think a large part of that is because it was written by a former slave.
Yeah.
And it was interesting to see, like Cato was the minstrel trope. He was just the yes, a master, whatever master wants.
And it's
yes,
literally written like that,
yeah.
Which made it so hard to read it because he wrote in the dialects.
Yeah, and so you have him sort of being that, and there's multiple times where people are like, Cato, please do this, please help, and he's like, no, I ain't gonna go against Massa. I ain't going. Like he's very just going along with whatever they want, even though there are times when he does something of his own. I don't want to say, something of his own accord and pays the price for it. But then what was really interesting is you had the other slaves who were more eloquent in the way that they're presented, as well as just, I don't know, he did a really good job, and I really applaud the doing an incredibly good job of denouncing the evils of slavery and just racism in general.
Yeah.
And, so, frickin' Dr. Gaines.
Yeah.
Screw that guy.
Yeah.
Colonel Dr. Gaines, my fist in his face. So, the show started with Dr. Gaines talking about how and I hated this line because it reminds me of people I've actually heard talk about their business stuff, where they're like, boy, I sure wish we'd get a plague coming through here so that I could have more patients and make more money. And I just love this doctor is like, man, we need a good old just plague to come through here and provide us with some more patients so we can make money. And and it is the thing of like the slave owners in this show are constantly talking about how just you listen to them talking, it makes it sound like their lives are just so hard.
Yeah.
These slaves just make their lives unbearable. Like, just I want to do a lot of smacking of people in this
Yeah.
show.
Do a little paintbrushing. Like
Yes. Yes. Ow.
that. That's why I do it slower.
So Dr. Gaines and Dr. Gaines's wife, Mrs. Gaines, is talking about how the Lord will provide. Maybe the Lord will send, a
A cholera
cholera
plague.
outbreak your way so that you'll have patience. And as they're sitting there talking, a guest is announced by one of the slaves. Oh, Mr. So-and-so, I can't remember his name, is here to see you. And he brings him in and he talks about, oh, I need a new doctor for my family as well as all my slaves because the doctor I have currently keeps killing all my slaves. And
Yeah.
and of course there was lots of use of the N-word in this.
Yeah, that was not fun.
I've never heard Kay say the N-word so much.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah, and it's the hard R one
Yeah.
written in this.
And we were talking about that the first couple times I was like, oh, like when she would say it, and then I kind of got a little desensitized to it because it's the course of the story and they use it a lot.
But yeah, I personally have I have a personal history that I won't get into on why that word just
Well, I feel like not
punches
liking that
me in the
word.
brain,
I feel like
but-
not liking that word requires no real explanation other than it's a bad word and it's only
it's-
been used ever to demean people.
yeah, it just it's one of those things like if other black people use it, I'm fine with that. I personally I hate having to read it when I read out a play. I do not like hearing it. If someone says it to me, then my earrings are coming off. Well, my earrings are always off.
You're always ready to go.
I'm always ready to go. But I just I don't want to get too much into it, but yeah, that was the worst part of reading this play.
Yeah. And so anyway, this other slave owner comes in to talk to the doctor, and he's like, I need a new doctor, and they negotiate a price, and then the guy leaves, and he basically turns to his wife. He's like, oh, look, the Lord provided for us, it's extra, $500 a year, $500 a month, whatever, whatever the price was that they negotiated. And I'm trying to remember from there, because I think it then cuts to is it Miranda? Melinda and Glenn, right?
Yes.
So I didn't catch. Well, I guess for some reason I thought Melinda was white and Glenn was black, so I was like, oh, they're working in a interracial relationship here.
no.
But Melinda is she's
mixed.
Mixed.
She's a lighter skinned
Yes,
slave.
and so we have Melinda and Glenn who meet in the city under secrecy because they're both slaves and they married each other. They got married in secret, but they both belong to separate slave owners, and they're just talking about the woes of their life and how they want to be together, but
And
they're
Dr. Gaines wants Melinda.
yeah, it's established in the course of the show that Dr. Gaines likes to diddle his slaves. And yes, he wants Melinda, and Glenn and her are talk about leaving, but that would be too hard, it'd be too dangerous, and stuff like that. And that makes a revisit later. But after they have their secret meeting and then go, I think that's when we get to see Cato. Oh yeah, because when Dr. Gaines is talking to his new the other slave owner who's gonna get Dr. Gaines to look after his family and his slaves medically, he's like, oh, well, 2 of them are sick and I'll send them to see you later. And he says that in that point so that after Melinda and Glenn have their secret meeting, it then goes to Dr. Gaines's doctor's office and his little helper, Cato. And so Cato is a slave who is the one that's the very, yes, massa, massa. And he like the very kind of dumb.
Yeah, he is a Uncle Tom.
Yes, he is that. And he's there, and then Dr. Gaines is like, oh, well, so-and-so is going to be sending two of his boys here, and I've got to go out and run some errands. So when they come in, he had the attitude of like, they're slaves and you're slaves, so you can take care of them. I'm not going to worry myself with it, and tells them to, take their pulse, bleed them, give them a pill of pulverized cow manure or something like that, whatever it was, because it's the 1800s. Medicine was more of a suggestion than anything else.
We hadn't invented medicine yet.
Yeah. No, the medical treatment was still cut them open and bleed them.
Yep.
And Cato, while he's left to his own devices, he's like, I'm going to be fancy. And so he goes and he grabs one of Dr. Gaines's other medical jackets and puts it on, and he's like dressing up in dad's clothes type of thing. Like, look at me, I'm important. And then the slaves that were being expected to show up, and there's a little bit of banter with them about, well, we want to see the doctor, and he's like, well, I am the doctor. Don't you see my coat? Look at me, I'm a doctor. Now open up your mouth and say and kind of thing. And he kind of gives them a little bit of his half medical, his subpar medical treatment. But one of them has a sore tooth that he needs pulled, and Cato pulls the wrong tooth, which causes a scuffle, as would be expected. So if Doctor pulled my wrong tooth, you can bet I'd probably be a little upset. And that's when Dr. Gaines comes back in the middle of this scuffle, and he's like, "Oh, a table's been turned over. What have you been doing?" Da 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 da. And one of the guys is like, "He pulled the wrong tooth." And he's like, he wouldn't stop moving. Oh, he's a liar. And Dr. Gaines basically tells Cato, I'm just going to whip you good for what you've done. And then he finishes tending to the other slaves and then sends them on their way, and proceeds to tell Cato about how he's going to beat him good. After that, I can't remember the scene that it goes to. I think it might be back at Gaines's plantation.
Yeah.
And I think it's the Reverend, right?
Yes, who I did the Mitch McConnell voice for.
Yeah. That cracks me up whenever they have that kind of character in the show, just talking about, because he was not in favor of treating black people like God's children.
Yeah.
He's preaching Christianity and salvation and redemption, but totally, completely oblivious to the mass violation of humanity that is going on all around them. But he's talking to Mrs. Gaines about accepting, or I think she's already religious, but he was just telling her, basically doing preacherly stuff. Yeah,
because at the time, if you were in rural Kentucky, which is where this takes place, or other areas, you would not have like a church that you would go to. You would wait for a passing minister to come by and either do a revival or do church meetings or visit your house to preach to you and pray with you, give you Lord's Supper. Yeah, it's fun stuff there.
So the preacher is there talking to her, and I can't remember. Oh, he's talking about how he had like a vision or a dream or whatever, and he was up in heaven, and is it who?
It's Hannah that asks.
Hannah, one of the other slaves, who's Miss Gaines's handmaiden, basically, makes this comment. She goes, "Oh, well, did you see my father up there?" And the preacher's like, "I didn't go to the black part of heaven," kind of thing, all snidely. It's like, oh, even heaven is segregated. Cool.
Like, God, that's not heaven, that's hell.
Right. Oh, God. Okay, anyway, I almost went into a profanity-laden rant.
You're fine.
So, and then I'm trying to remember how Hannah, quote-unquote, embarrasses Mrs. Gaines in front of the preacher, if it's just other than just asking questions.
I think it's just asking questions. And then she brings up that, Hannah stole a goose for her and her husband the other day.
Because it's like the Lord's Supper is this Sunday or whatever, and like Hannah stole a goose and cooked it up for her and her husband, Sammy, and after we caught her and beat her and made her confess for it. Like, I don't think that she's good enough to go to the Lord's Supper, blah, 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 blah. But what do you think, preacher? And the preacher's like, well, if she was caught and punished and repented, then I think she's able to go, kind of thing.
But it's under your discretion.
That's under your discretion.
Which, so from a religious standpoint, a lot of different forms of Christianity, if you do not take the Lord's Supper regularly, you're not going to heaven.
So what is the Lord's Supper?
That's where they do the consecrating the bread and the wine, and then...
Okay.
Yeah, that's the Lord's Supper.
Oh.
So if you don't have communion, you aren't going to heaven, is a belief in a lot of those circles.
So if you just miss one. Man, God's got some strict rules.
Or if you don't go regularly, and again with this, if you've got a traveling preacher, then...
So what if you miss one, but repent? Does that wipe it away? Isn't repentance supposed to be like a catch-all?
I got so angry when I learned that doing theology classes that I don't know if that covers it, but...
That's totally all right.
Because that was just one of those things where I'm like, well, what if you can't go? What if you're in the hospital?
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
Granted, now hospitals do communion. I mean, they have done communion for a long time, but still, I'm just like, ugh.
Yeah, anyway, yeah. That's neither here nor there.
Yeah.
It's over there.
History of theater, not history of religion.
Yes. And then after the preacher leaves, that's when Mrs. Gaines is like, oh, go grab the cowhide, Hannah, and come down to the cellar with me so I can beat you good. It's like the equivalent of making, your kid go cut their own switch for their whipping, Go grab the whipping tools and follow me down to the whipping space. And then after that... I'm trying to remember where it cuts to, because I can't remember if it goes back to the...
It goes to the slave trader.
Okay. So the slave... And he doesn't show up at Gaines's, right? Or does he show up somewhere else?
He shows up on the road to Gaines's.
Okay, so they're on the roads, because he's not talking to Gaines initially, right? He's talking to some other slave owner.
Correct.
I think it's the one who owns Glenn.
Yes.
Hamilton, that was his name.
Yeah.
So Hamilton runs into this slave trader on the road, and he's like, hey, the price of slaves is up. Do you have any slaves you want to sell me? I'll pay top dollar, and I won't argue with you, kind of thing. And he's like, I don't really need to get rid of any, blah, 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 blah. And then Gaines encounters him on the road as well, and the slave owner does his same thing. Hey, you want to sell some slaves? Come on, some of your slaves. Got any extra slaves? Do you got one of those outdated slaves? The new slaves are coming out. You got to replace your old slaves with new slaves.
Oh, God.
Can I offer you in the slave exchangement program? Like,
oh, that's kind of how it was written.
You're right.
Oh.
It kind of was. The iSlave 10 is coming out. Do you want to trade in your iSlave 9?
Oh, Jesus.
But, yeah, and we find out, this is where we start to find out that Mr. Gaines likes the dark women, and
it's either the preacher or it's Mr. Haskins that they find out the girl that was sitting on his lap is his daughter, who also is his mistress.
Yeah, and he had to sell her because...
Mistress in quotes, it's what he's calling her.
Yeah.
She is a slave who he is raping.
Yes. And she... it's like, oh, she looks just like him, and she's got, she's white passing was pretty much the way they described her, and she has blue eyes. And he had to sell her because his wife was getting jealous of him diddling the slaves, and then he talks about, I don't want to get rid of any other ones, and then I think they mention Melinda. But I think his wife shows up. Yeah, that's right. His wife shows up on the road, too, as he's talking to the slave trader. And she's like, oh, I want you to get rid of Melinda so that I can... Yeah, get rid of Melinda because I don't like her, because I see the way that you look at her, and blah, 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 blah. So get rid of Melinda, and he wants her to get rid of Sammy and...
Hannah.
And not Hannah. It was...
Hannah... at first it was Sam and Hannah. He was like, sell them together because they're married.
Oh, gotcha.
And then she's like, no, I need Hannah by my side all the time.
I've spent all this work, training Hannah up, and now you're going to pull her out from under me. You don't care about me. Blah, blah, blah. And he was like, go and sell Sam so that I can marry Hannah off to Cato.
And then
kind of
Big
thing.
Sally.
And you can take Big Sally, and so okay, fine, and so he agrees to sell Sally and Sam, and then we have the slave trader going over and talking to them and asking, "Oh, how old are you?" "Oh, I don't know," because they're not, they've been purposely kept ignorant. And then he's
Yeah, can you imagine that? Not even knowing your age?
Yeah.
Not knowing when you were born, not
Yeah.
knowing who your parents were. That is so messed up.
it makes it intentional, and I remember that was a thing that I learned in school, how they talked about that it was considered illegal to educate slaves, and part of that was because they didn't want them being educated, because then they go, wait, why am I a slave? Like, why do you get to own me?
Yeah.
You keep them ignorant, and then it makes it easier to control them, and it's completely just void of any redeeming. Okay, no ranting, no profanity. Keep it in check, Warren. So after the slave trader is like, he puts handcuffs on him and basically is like, "Oh, I'll pay," pays the guy in cash. He's like, "And if you two don't cry when we get to the next town, I'll buy you both a big ginger cake."
Yeah.
Don't be upset about being treated like commodities, kind of thing. And after that scene, I think that's when it goes back to Cato at the doctor's office again.
Yes.
And we get to see Cato being Cato, and he is putting the moves on another slave that he's sweet on, and kind of Tapioca, and he's put the moves on her. Talk about how he's a doctor by birth, and the master, he had to learn to be a doctor from books and stuff. But Cato, he's a real doctor because he's got it in him, kind of thing. And Gaines came back to the office, heard talking, and then was being stealthy to eavesdrop on what was going on, and he hears Cato talking trash on him, and then he bursts onto the scene, and first what happens is Cato hears a rustle and thinks that there's an intruder, and so he throws a chair and hits his master, and then it has a chase around the table. "I'm gonna whip you. I'm sorry, master. I didn't know it was you. I'm sorry." And that ends one of the acts. And I told Kay as she was reading that just I had Benny Hill music in my head playing around that part. Just and then the next scene opens up. Help me. Where does that pick up after?
Let me take a look, because I have the book on me.
You do have the book.
I just read the whole thing.
You did.
Let's see. Oh, it starts with Mrs. Gaines doing the whole, "You're going to jump the broom with Cato."
Oh, that's right. It's after the slave trader takes Hannah's husband, Sammy. And now she's like, "You're gonna get over. You were only married for 8 months. You couldn't possibly actually love him. You don't know what love is. You're just a dumb slave."
I want to beat Mrs. Gaines.
Oh yeah.
I want to beat her.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And so she's trying to get Hannah to cooperate and get married to Cato and jump the broom. And she's like, I don't wanna. I want my Sammy. And so she proceeds to then take Hannah down to the whipping cellar and whip her. And that's when you get the other slaves who were like, "Cato, tell Mrs. Gaines that you don't want Hannah, so she'll stop whipping her." He's like, "No, I ain't going to do that. I do want Hannah, and I ain't gonna, and if I tell her I don't want it, then she's gonna whip me, and I ain't gonna get whipped for nobody," kind of thing. And after that part, I'm trying to remember where it jumps, because the scene focuses mainly on that back and forth of Hannah's going to marry Cato, but Hannah doesn't want to, but Cato's okay with it.
And during that, you find out that allegedly Melinda was sold, but the slaves are like, "No, I think that Dr. Gaines sent her away to be somewhere in private where he can keep trying to."
He took her to
push up on her.
Yeah, he didn't sell her. He only said he did in order to make his wife get off his case. But what it sounded like he put her to was a rape cottage.
Yes, that is exactly what it was.
He put her in a isolated area that he knew where to get to so that he could go and visit her. And he does. He goes to go, because that's right, after they talk about her, it then cuts to Melinda at her
At her
shed.
prison.
Yeah, in her prison. And Gaines shows up to be like, hey, I'm home. And she's like, and she's upset because I don't know how she, no, he tries to force himself on her.
Yeah.
And she tells him no. And he's like, well, why? And she tells him that she's married and she has a husband that she loves and
Yeah.
she only wants to be with him. And he finds out that it's Glenn. What, Glenn? I'm gonna skin him alive. Like, I can't remember what he particularly says he's gonna do to him, but he says he's gonna kill him.
Yeah.
And yeah, and then he has this attitude of like, I'm gonna kill him and that'll make you treat me proper.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. You better be nicer to me when I come back next time after
Yeah.
I kill your husband. God. And she then is like, I can't stay here, knowing that Glenn is going to be hurt because of me. And I don't remember if she flees or if somebody shows up and helps her.
So Cato was there, and then Mrs. Gaines shows up.
That's right. Mrs.
And-
Gaines shows up to kill her.
Yeah.
And she's like, basically is like, here is a bottle of poison, you drink this. And she's like, I don't want to drink the poison. Then she pulls out a knife. She's like, either you drink the poison or I stab you with this knife.
And Melinda grabs a third option, which is a broom, and beats her back.
There's always
and
a third
escapes.
option. There's always a third option. And so Melinda fights off Mrs. Gaines and escapes. And I think that part is when where does it go?
It goes with Glenn, because Glenn has been captured and is waiting to be punished.
He's chained up. And I remember that's when, he's chained up and Gaines is like, oh, it's a good thing Hamilton was willing to sell me Glenn so that I can torture him to death.
Yeah.
And he tells one of his taskmasters to go,
his overseers.
to go whip Glenn 500 times and then check his pulse, and if he can handle more, whip him another 100 or 200. And that guy, that overseer, when he's like, ever since I saw that uppity N-word dressing all fancy, I wanted to whip him, kind of thing. I would rather whip him than go to heaven. And I'm like, wow, this guy's got his priorities.
Which makes you really happy when the next thing happens.
And I might have missed a tiny bit of it, because I know he goes to go whip him like Gaines told him to do, but then as he was like getting ready to do stuff, Glenn's able to get free, and he like grabs a nearby stick, hits that guy over the head with it, and then he runs off.
Yeah, basically bashes his brains in.
Well, he
to get
doesn't.
away.
He doesn't do that because he doesn't kill the
No.
guy. He just
So the guy is certain he's gonna die.
I dead. He killed me. Like
I'm gonna die.
I died. And but yeah, he's got a head injury, and he went to go report to Gaines that Glenn ran off after striking him. And that's when Gaines is like, oh, well, we're going to go hunt him down, like get all the boys, get the dogs, and let's go get him. And then I think doesn't it go to the city? Because that's where we get to meet the guy from
Yeah, it goes to the bar.
the bar in some city, away from the other plantations. I don't know where it is, but we get to meet this gentleman who is from Mississippi, and it's a free state, and he is over here and people talk about slaves, and he puts in his 2 cents about how slavery is wrong. It was nice to see at least one nice white guy.
Yeah.
As a white guy.
Yeah.
I appreciate that little bit of representation in this story. The one white guy who's like,
and the Quakers later.
okay, that's fair. The white guy who's like, slavery's bad. And I like that he poses the question to them, we want to say that this is a free country, but then you have slaves. Well, it's only free for whites.
Yeah. Then it's like,
Wonderful
you're...
catch-22. And then they basically tell him, you stop talking about how slavery's bad or we're going to kill you. And he's like, okay. Like, so he basically zips it. And he leaves the room. He leaves, and then that's when somebody comes in. I don't remember if it's Gaines or not.
It is.
Comes in, and he's like, slaves are missing. I'll pay $500 to whoever can catch them. And that's when everybody is like, well, it must have been the guy who thinks slavery's bad. I bet he stole them.
Yeah.
And so they're like, well, let's go get him. And this is kind of where the whole thing, it culminates, and then it ends kind of abruptly. Because, I forgot, I left out the part where there is kind of a sweet scene that is Melinda and Glenn on the road trying to get to the
Mason-Dixon line.
Mason-Dixon line. and they have some songs and stuff in that part, but they're just, I don't know, that was a sweet scene, just these two lovers fleeing for freedom kind of thing, and just I did kind of like that scene. So that part happens before we get to the man from Mississippi,
from Massachusetts.
I said Mississippi, my bad. From Massachusetts. And after everybody's like, oh, it must be that guy from Massachusetts who done dare Dan took your slaves, and they go after him. And you might have to help me with this part, because this is where like the fight happens, right?
No, this is where Cato goes behind the bar and helps himself to a drink, and then kind of sees that the barkeeper's helping the white guy from Massachusetts escape, and then we don't see Cato for a little bit, and then we have one more scene, I believe, with Melinda and Glenn, and then we find out that Cato got himself freed because he just basically stole his master's clothes, put them on, hopped out the window, and made his way and found his way to the Quaker's house.
That's right.
And the Quakers have this really great scene where they're helping out Glenn and Melinda and getting them ready to make the last couple of miles up to Canada. And then after that scene, they have their one neighbor who comes over who's like, I'm here to protect them, so that if anyone comes in, I'm going to fight to make sure that these people get up to freedom. And because they make a very big point of stating that this is happening because of the Fugitive Slave Act, that's the reason that they have to move
to Canada. They have to leave the U.S. entirely. They can't just get to a free state. They have to
get to Canada. And the guy that's offering help is like, well, since you guys are, non-violent, I'll do the violence for you.
Yep.
Which I'm like, that's Warren.
I don't know what you're talking about, Kay.
But after that, then they go to Niagara, and that's where you have Mr. White trying to sketch Niagara Falls while all these peddlers are walking by trying to sell him stuff. And he, I have 13 kids. My wife is sick.
Oh, that guy was so funny. He's like, buy my stuff. My wife is sick, and I have children at home, and they're all sick. And
I have 13 kids. I have 9 kids. And then that's where the fight happens, because Cato comes up first and is waiting, and then Glenn and Melinda come in, and then Dr. Gaines pursues
with his horde of people.
With his horde and with the U.S. Marshal. And that's where they are able to fight, overpower Dr. Gaines, and jump into the ferry that had just pulled up to get across over to Canada.
And then basically, as the ferry's leaving, like, they jump on, because they say that it's drifting away, and that's when they're basically waving to the...
Cato and Glenn are pulling off their hats and waving the hats off like, see ya!
Like, see ya! And then that's when the curtain falls, and they made it. They made it to freedom.
Yep. And technically, this one could be considered a musical. It's
true, because it did have another number of songs to it.
Yeah, the songs were based off of folk songs that I don't know, but then with lyrics written by William Wells Brown instead of the original lyrics. So it's sort of a proto-musical.
Yeah.
It's a baby musical.
It's a baby.
It's a baby.
It's a baby.
So, yeah, that was an escape, or a leap for freedom.
The last one that you did, the French one, I already forgot. Oh, the Black Doctor.
Mm-hmm.
That one was good, even if it had some stuff in it that I didn't necessarily like.
Mm-hmm.
I like this one more, even though it had gratuitous use of racial slurs. I like that.
And a lot of rape.
I mean, they talk about it, but
yeah,
at least
they don't show it.
At least
thankfully.
we won't see any. But it had a happier story. I liked that they got away and they got to live happily ever after.
Me too. Me too.
So I like that.
Yay!
But
I'm glad.
This still makes me very angry.
Yeah, I know. Well, we've got a few more shows and periods of time before we can get to the period of time where it's less angry. It's still angry, but it's less angry. The benefit is that we are out of the slavery era now. What we're going into.
Okay.
Because...
So now we're just into the Jim Crow law
Yes,
era.
yes. Now we're going into Jim Crow laws and stuff like that. We're gonna be kind of doing a little bit, and I'm not sure how many episodes this is going to take, on the early black musicals. The only reason that I say I don't know how many episodes is because other than In Dahomey, I cannot find anything. And with In Dahomey, it's literally, I just have the script out of Black Theater USA that I could read. But it's long.
Yeah.
It's longer, and it is a musical. And I was able to find a music book online, but it's $135, and I'm not buying that. I don't have that kind of money.
You're fair. We spend a lot of money on our podcast getting materials anyway.
Yeah, so I don't know. Maybe if there's like a sudden uptick in patrons, then I could feel like I could buy that for next year and be like, hey, look, we're gonna sing the songs of In Dahomey. But probably not. It's $135. But we'll be talking about a lot of the early black musicals, and then a couple more plays before we get us to where I have the first examples of shows that I can show you, which are in the 30s. And that is my goal, is to get there before the end of the month. Otherwise, we'll just do it in March.
Sounds good.
Because Black history is everyone's history, and yeah. Black history is American history.
It's true.
Darn it. Almost said different word, but we've reached our swear quota for this episode.
Swoda.
Our SWOTA. So, yeah, next week we'll cover In Dahomey, Clarindy, a couple of other musicals, so it'll be interesting.
Yay for interesting.
Yeah. Because I don't know how I'm going to cover them, really. I guess not next week. It'll be next episode. So people at home will think that I have figured this all out by the time that it's posted.
The illusion of editing.
Through the magic of editing. So thank you all so much for listening. We're glad that you're coming back every week to listen, and that you're enjoying our show. If you liked this episode, please review it on Podchaser, since you can review individual episodes on that website. Please feel free to follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. All of it's Tone Deaf Musical.
You can go to our website, which is tonedeafmusical.com, which has links to all of those social media platforms, as well as a link to the Podcast Junkie Discord server, where we have a Tone Deaf channel.
Yep, and that channel is not safe for work because we swear in that channel.
My bad.
We also, again, want to just encourage that you listen to the shows that we recommend through out this month and past this month and before this month. Listen to the shows that we like. Because we'll just be highlighting a new black show every episode for this month, and probably longer, because I love all of these shows that I'm recommending. I listen to them a lot and I love them, and they're some of my favorite shows. So, you should listen.
I've listened to some of them too, and they are really good.
Yeah. So, do you have anything you would like to add, Warren?
Those of you listening have no idea how much work Kay is putting into this, because some of it is material that we can't share yet unless we can get okayed from people who hold the copyrights. So
I have been recording when I read these plays.
Kay is awesome and amazing, and
Thank you, babe.
I appreciate all the hard work that you put into it.
Thank you. I love you.
Love you.
So that will be it for this week. I'm Kay.
I'm Warren.
And this has been Tone Deaf.